I worked on neon sign repair, which was probably my favorite thing that I got to do there.
How was that?
That was really cool. That was so much fun. It was like a one-person show, so I was like, it was my own gig, and it would be like just this room full of broken neons, but like a neon might compose of 3 or 4 parts. It'd be like Budweiser on tap, and like Bud and Weiser is always 2 or 3 sections of neon. So you would have like one neon sign where the Bud was broken and another one that had the Bud. So you'd grab that Bud, throw it on that one, and maybe one didn't have the on tap, and so you put like on draft and make it over there, and then you like made a new Frankenstein sign.
Yeah.
So it was like this kind of thing of grabbing all of these shared pieces, or that were all compatible with each other, and putting them together, or just replacing the transformers.
Welcome back to Brew Dat Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always by Evan Blum.
Hello, everybody.
Before we get started, thank you to our sponsors. If you can see, go on our video. We got these sweet new shock absorbers for our microphone. We can thank our sponsors, The Beer Accountant and Zilk & Co. So, thank you.
Thank you guys for being supportive.
Also, before we get started, go subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, and subscribe on Spotify. That's it. Thank you. So let's get started. Tonight we have a very special guest, Kyler Gretz of Gretz Brewing Company. So if you've listened to this podcast before, you know how much I love brews that are named after somebody. You are obviously, this is named after you and your family, so we can get kind of all into that. Val, you have had a brewery or beer companies kind of named after your namesake for the last, 140 years?
About 140, yeah.
Awesome. So I guess welcome and congratulations on opening.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So Gretz Brewing is a new brewery open in Elverson.
Yes, we're in Elverson, out on a farm in Chester County, and we've been selling beer for a little over a month now.
Nice. And I guess a lager brewer, right?
Yes. Focusing on lagers currently, just with 2 offerings, our Helles lager and a Pilsner.
Nice. I'm having the Pilsner right now. It's awesome. And yeah, I guess, so if you have not seen Gretz, I know that Brew Dat made a post about it. Brewers in PA did like a little write-up about it. You've been in some newspapers. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure people have heard the name Gretz. The old Gretz Breweries in Kensington, right near Human Robot. Mm-hmm. I guess you guys were brewing there for many, many years. And I guess all your marketing and your logos are all, has goals that like, we love this kind of like retro old school branding. Thank you, Hannah. Yeah, it's very cool. It's like very cool old school brand that's kind of hitting right at the right time where like old school lagers coming back.
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like, we're in the midst of a return to some traditional styles, mm-hmm. Particularly in brewing. And, I think lagers have been on a slow burn rise in popularity, and I think they'll be here to stay for a while, but the timing is pretty sweet that people are turning kind of back more towards traditional beer styles.
Definitely. And I guess with that being said, can we start, I guess, from the beginning, from like what, sure. 1860?
1881. 1881. My great-great-grandfather started, partnered with the Rieger and Gretz Brewing Company in Kensington on Germantown Avenue. And that brewery started in 1881.
Is that the same location that it like currently?
That still is, like, say a smokestack that exists.
Yes.
On, I think it's Oxford and between Oxford and Jefferson Avenue on Germantown Ave.
Cool. And was your
same facility?
And your great-great-grandfather? Great-great-great-grandfather?
Great-great-grandfather. So I'm 5th generation
cool.
of that family.
And he came from Germany?
He came from Germany, yeah. He was a younger immigrant, came from Germany. I believe he worked at a different brewery before partnering and starting the Rieger and Gretz Brewing Company in 81. And that brewery, like, kind of gradually, or not gradually, it shifted names over the years, especially in the late 1800s, as different partners came and went. and just with like rebranding it. At one point, it was the J. Rieger Gretz Brewing, which Tivoli was like an area in Germany that they were sort of trying to draw connections to.
It's like Budweiser, right? Just make it
a little bit
something in Germany.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the late 1800s, Tivoli was like a very a romantic destination in Germany to visit. I believe it had some famous gardens there, and Gretz wasn't the only brewery to sort of harken back to Tivoli. I've seen Tivoli in a number of breweries historically, and I think there's still a Tivoli Brewing out west today, whether in Pacific Northwest or Colorado. I'm not too sure. So Tivoli always sort of had a spot in like the romantic mindset, I think.
Definitely.
Particularly back then. And the brewery, like all others, it experienced prohibition, but it was one of, I believe, 20 breweries in Philadelphia to return after prohibition. And after prohibition, it returned as the Gretz Brewing Company.
Cool.
Or William Gretz Brewing Company.
What was that's so from 1880 to the end of prohibition, that's 40 years. It's like a whole generation.
Sure. Yeah.
Was it your great grandfather that ran it all the way through? And like, what sort of beers were they making?
So he was still involved. I think getting towards prohibition time frame, he was on his way out, or I don't know exactly the year William Gretz died, but then William Gretz Jr. continued running the brewery. And it was a little before prohibition that J. Rieger had passed away, the other partner in the brewery, and they bought out his rights. And so that's when they returned from prohibition. They dropped the Rieger part of it. And it was just Gretz.
I'm sure you've heard something. I mean, what did they do during prohibition? Was it a little?
They make they make ice cream like Yuengling.
They shipped it into a few avenues. One, they were making ice.
Oh, really?
They had like an ice house there, and so they were storing and making ice, sending that out, and then they were making near beer. However, they did get raided a number of times, and I have a number of historic articles documenting those raids.
I think everyone was doing it, so it's like
agents coming in and raiding the bottling line, samples from taps, beer trucks. It's a number of articles.
Yeah, I imagine back in the day they just came in with like axes and just like
totally. Yeah, they were in charge, and there was definitely, I think, a big infraction on the brewery's end that led them to be shut down for a year, I believe, during Prohibition. And they they fought against those charges and ultimately had them dropped as unwarranted and heavy-handed. So it's kind of fun reading these old articles, which I sort of have like a...
Do you get them? Like, does your family have like old newspaper clippings and stuff?
A lot. We have a lot of physical ones, and then on the actual like newspaper side of things, they tend to be digital. I've connected with... I kind of scour the web for them on my own, but
do you know Rich Wagner?
Exactly. So I connected with Rich Wagner, and he shared his Dropbox files with me. Which were...
How many terabytes was that?
It was plenty. It was a lot. It's beautiful to be in the online age these days, to just have it on the computer and not take up a hard drive or whatever.
Yeah.
It exits a lot. And it's very organized, but there's a whole section of just newspaper articles from the time, particularly from the Prohibition era. So they got by with near beer, but they were pushing it, I think, just like everybody else.
For sure. I mean, everybody was doing it. If you popped open right after Prohibition, I'm sure you were,
yeah, you survived.
Sharpening your...
But it did weed out. I know, like I mentioned, I think Gretz was one of 19 or 20 to emerge.
Oh, I'm sure.
Prohibition.
Probably most of them.
But yeah, I'd like to know how many were prior to it, because I imagine it was a minority returned after that.
Definitely. Do you know what the size of it was? I was reading online that at one point you guys made 250,000 barrels, which is an enormous brewery.
That's a lot. Yeah, that was, I believe, in 1949 was the peak. And so it was a pretty gradual rise to that 250,000 output. And then, which was around 1950, it then dropped off pretty significantly after that. But it was a pretty gradual rise up until then, coupled with brewery expansions.
Was it just one beer that they were making, or
no? They had a number of brands.
Just lagers.
Ales as well. They had a porter,
cool,
a half an ale, which, is sort of vague there. And then they also had a lot of traction with a half and half brand. And then a lot of their brands back then, as were I think many other of the time, were pretty vague in their marketing. It would just say Gretz Ale, Gretz Lager, or even just Gretz Beer, and then maybe somewhere else on the label.
It was gotten like so nuanced now.
Yeah, and then it was very broad. And they would have like other brands like Exeter Ale or Bond Hill Lager, but like it was the brand was a differentiating point. While it said whether it was ale or lager, it didn't differentiate much more beyond that. And nor do I see the alcohol content on many labels, either. Which has been a trip going back and researching. Like they did a lot of Bock beer, and what we know as Bock beer today being like 6% plus ABV. I looked up their Bock recipe and Bock beers of the time, and they were like 4%. So it was sort of like an interesting carryover, I think, of German marketing. And maybe some freedom as far as brewing with corn and rice, but they still made it a lower ABV drinkable beer.
They brewed with corn and rice, the Bock beer?
That recipe, I'm not too sure. There's a recipe that exists on the Smithsonian website that I know had corn. I'm not sure if it had rice in it. It might not have, but definitely had corn in it and like 6-row and 2-row barley. But it was like a 4% beer, yet still Bock.
Yeah.
So it's interesting historically how those things have shifted as well.
Probably everything has changed. Like even recipes now from like the late 90s or early 2000s are much different. Like an IPA now is much different than an American IPA now.
Totally.
From 10 years ago.
How much like research did you have to do when you started coming up with the brand or the idea like you want to open up the brewery again? Is it something that was like you've been grown up through this whole thing, like you already knew a lot of this, or is it like you needed to really like dig into some files and like kind of understand like the history of like the family almost?
I had been pretty interested in it throughout my like more adult life. I tend to be like, I've pushed notifications on eBay when any like new old Gretz stuff comes up.
What do you see? Is it mostly like trays or?
A lot of trays, a lot of labels, bottle openers.
Cool.
And then sometimes empty cans and bottles. Those tend to go in the more specialty auction sites for more money. Like the stuff that goes on eBay is a bit more common. And I tend to be priced out of the other auctions, but
yeah.
So like I definitely.
That's so funny. It has your name on it.
Oh yeah, and they really go for a lot. So on one hand, I've been a collector of it, so I'd had that exposure on a historic level, but also just through research, and even growing up, like at my father's house and family members' house on the Gretz side of the family, which is Gretz is on my father's side. They had all sorts of like cool old Gretz stuff on display. So like even from a kid, I would see neat old Gretz posters or labels or like these sort of like shadow box interactive design things that they had, which were pretty neat, which are well out of my price range. But so from a kid being exposed to it at families' houses, and then once I got more into adulthood, just looking it up online, trying to buy some of my own stuff and grow my own collection off of eBay and other sites. But just a lot of online research. It's pretty neat that that's available out there to find, and I could kind of like pioneer my own interest on that or do my own research on it.
Yeah, it's like it becomes harder and harder to find, but I feel like nowadays there's just so much access to everything that now it might be a lot easier to find all this stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely easier now, and I received my father's collection a year or two ago of like his Gretz beer stuff, and a lot of it came like with letters, stuff that he had amassed in like the 80s and 90s, and a lot of times it was accompanied with a letter of saying like, "Hey, Steve," or so and so, like, "I saw this at a flea market, or I saw this X, Y, and Z place, thought of you and bought it," and like it was hand brought to him, which was a bit more convenient then because my family was involved in a beer distributor, so there was like an office that, it was a physical place that someone could come and deliver this stuff to. So it was neat seeing how on today I could get this stuff online, but in the back in the day, my family was getting it more through like a borderline word of mouth or connection kind of person to person level.
Von Sion with Schmidt's, and it's the same thing. People come into the tap room and just be like, like my grandfather worked here, and like, this is like the right place for it. You know, it's
Totally.
kind of boring to live here.
Yeah, people come out of the woodwork. And I'm experiencing that now too. It was definitely, I think, a thing back when my family had the distributor. People would bring them things. And now I'm getting contacted on my email or on Instagram of like, hey, I have this old bottle, or my dad's old tray is this, and either showing me or offering me or just kind of showing what they've got. So that's definitely been a positive of this, because I am pretty into finding this stuff online. And so now there's other people looking for it too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Hey, brewery or small business owner, are you tired of navigating complex brewery accounting and taxes on your own? Staying up late working on financials and getting your finances in order after a whole workday? At the Beer Accountant, they understand the unique financial challenges of the craft brewing industry. They're a CPA dedicated to helping breweries like yours thrive, with services ranging from qualified bookkeeping, business tax prep, to strategic financial planning. Stop wasting time on spreadsheets and focus on what you do best: making great beer and running a small business, servicing over 50 breweries in 4 states. So if you own a brewery or small business, stop overpaying for reactive support and start being proactive with the Beer Accountant. Don't brew that IPA without this CPA. Visit beeraccountant.com to learn how their specialized expertise can help your brewery grow, profit, and succeed.
When your family transitioned from the brewery over to the distributor, when was that? Was it the 50s?
Yeah, it was the 50s. The brewery closed in 1961.
Okay.
It didn't close, but it was sold to another brewery.
What is it? Elverson something?
Esslinger.
Esslinger, that's it.
Esslinger. The brand was sold to Esslinger in, I think, 61. And they contract brewed it for a couple more years. And then it was either sold to Jacob Ruppert Brewing in New York, or Esslinger was sold to them. I'm not too sure, but Jacob Ruppert in New York Brewing brewed the beer for not very long, but I do have some cans that were brewed by Jacob Ruppert. So that was in 61, and Gretz was one of the final 4 breweries in Philadelphia.
Because this was like the wrap up, right? Where like basically the large breweries like Anheuser-Busch,
Yep.
Schlitz, everybody was just buying everybody up.
Yeah, and the consumer trend was toward the bigger brands as well. In beer, especially, they're going towards like Miller and Bud and Coors. But I think on a national level, consumer trends were going towards more macro brands.
When did you guys have cans?
Yes.
So cans came out like what, the 40s?
Yes.
Because I think it was around that time where like everything switched to cans, became much easier to package and ship, and then it was kind of like consolidation after that.
And Gretz was an early adapter of cans at the time, which I think particularly helped them survive.
Yeah.
While I mentioned they were one of the final 4 breweries, they were consistently, I think, the smallest of those 4, and relied heavily on marketing to kind of survive.
Which is crazy because you guys were so large. It was
Right.
a much different age.
So it makes you think, at our peak, we were 250,000. Schmidt's was probably like 10 times that or something.
They said they were 2.5 million or something at their peak.
10 times.
Yes, exactly 10 times.
So, I mean, they were scrappy in that sense. They were still finding ways to be competitive, which was frequently on the marketing side of things. And they were an early adapter of cans. And the early cans were very different, or there was a gradual rollout of them. A lot of them had like a screw top lid on them.
Really?
The cone top cans. So they were.
I feel like that's like a new school thing that like I always thought like Coors Light invented that. Like, no.
Yeah. Are those still out, or it would be really neat to find a cone top can?
Those are the
manufacturer.
The real silver bullets.
Yeah, I don't. I think now we're pretty limited to. Like, I mean, this is a pretty impressive.
They make them when you go
product,
to some sports games. They have like the screw on that are like the more squat ones.
Okay. Right on. Yeah. So Gretz had the
that would probably
cone top.
A huge pain to package that thing. I don't know how.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Probably some specialty stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so you guys were doing that for like 10 years or 20 years, I guess.
They transitioned into bottles pretty heavily in the 1950s.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure cans existed alongside those at the same time, but definitely pretty bottle heavy into the 1950s.
Cool.
And at least while they had those crown tops and even another one that was more curvy called a J spout, they definitely transitioned into the more conventional cans that are like a straight cylinder like this.
Wait, say again the J spout. What was that?
So the cone top would be like angular, like a straight angle lines up to the cone, to the screw.
Yeah.
Lid. A J spout was a bit more like curvy or angled to the top. So it would leave the horizontal lines of the cylinder of the can, and it sort of like waved into the top.
Is that for like aeration, or?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was a marketing shift or if there was technological improvements in the like on the manufacturing side. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But the J spout and the cone tops are definitely some of the most sought after formats of the old beer.
That's so crazy. I'd never even heard of those ones. Like,
Yeah, some weird ergonomical thing. It's just like
Sure.
someone
Yeah,
like
it's kind of fun. They were figuring it out back then.
yeah,
like, this looks futuristic. Let's just
Yeah, it's like the cone tops walk so this could run.
yeah,
And it then
exactly.
But glass bottles have the long necks, like
Some of
it's
that's
kind of started. Maybe that kind of morphed into the glass bottle portion. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll have to get Rich Wagner back on.
Yeah, he's been a spectacular resource on this stuff. He's been out to the brewery a couple times, and I've even had some of my own things that I can share with him, which is kind of, for me, impressive because he seemingly like has it all and knows it all.
Yeah, you probably
And,
want like 5 people.
and there's a few other guys in that Breweryana scene. Breweryana being like the collection of old beer stuff, whether it's labels or trays that I've connected with, that also have a pretty impressive collection and even more so just knowledge base of the brands and such. I'm sure they're listening to us talking about J spouts and cone tops and like being confused on the layout, and they're like shaking like, no, it's like blankety blank. It was 1948 or whatever. But they've all been an awesome resource to connect with as well.
Cool. So, the distribution company,
Sure.
was that just a way, one, I guess after Prohibition was when kind of 3-tier system started, where like wholesale distributions kind of became separated. So it was generally a new thing. I mean, it was like, because that happened in the 60s?
Yeah. My grandfather left the brewery. He was involved with sales at the brewery.
Yeah.
And he left to start a distribution business. He sort of saw some of the writing on the wall of like how the beer was trending, how sales were declining, and how consumers were shifting more towards macro brands.
Yeah.
And so he left the brewery, perhaps coupled with his own personal reasons to leave the brewery, and started a beer distribution business that was Delco Beverage. And that was distributing...
That was in Chester?
That was in Delaware County.
Okay.
And that was distributing... I'm not sure what other brands, but I know that it was distributing Gretz, and it then notably picked up Anheuser-Busch. It got the rights to distribute Anheuser-Busch in the 50s.
And I think that was, I mean, Anheuser-Busch was still one of the biggest brands, but it was not what Anheuser-Busch is today.
No doubt. Yeah, it was growing and very big, but not the AB or not the Bud we know today. I want to say that was in 1954 when my grandfather started the distribution company. But it was mid-1950s, and it started just in Delaware County. And then they picked up more brands throughout the 70s and 80s, and they picked up more territories. And eventually they were distributing in Bucks, Berks, Delaware, and Montgomery County. And not just Anheuser-Busch, a lot of craft brands as well. And they focused a lot on craft brands. We were one of the biggest distributors for Victory Brewing, pretty big with Trogs, New Trail at the time, sort of like some of these earlier craft breweries, say like early 2000s. And before that company was sold, they were even nominated for Craft Wholesaler of the Year.
Wow.
National Wholesaler Association. So they were pretty diverse and still had, they sort of walked this line of definitely being a Bud house and selling Budweiser and its affiliated AB brands, but also pushing craft a lot as well, and sort of took more of like a personal approach to sales and delivery and maintaining customer accounts.
I've heard, I think your dad give some interviews on some podcasts about how like he met like
Sure.
Augie Bush and August Bush the fourth, and like those people like in the beer world are like these like kind of crazy figures of like they kind of shaped the beer culture in America, and they're all different. Every character in the Bush family is like a different personality,
Right? Yeah, it seems like generationally, different personalities. It kind of ebbed and flowed back and forth on powerhouses and then screw ups even. But yeah, I believe that is who you're referring to. That would be my uncle, Mike.
Your
Those
uncle,
podcasts.
okay.
And it was my uncle, two uncles and father that ran the distributor,
Okay.
which ultimately became known as Gretz Beer Company. I think that name change happened in the 90s.
Cool.
1990s.
Cool.
Where it went from Delco to Gretz Beer. And also sort of adopted some old like imagery for the distributor that the old brewery used to use as well. So there's always been a bit of a through line with the old brewery marketing and even name wise. And so that distributor, I worked there when I was younger, like college, summer breaks. Started working there when I was pretty young, in like the sign shop.
Do you guys have like a store where you could purchase beer, or was it just distributed?
Just wholesale distribution. So we were the second tier. So we were the
The middle tier.
exactly. So we were receiving beer from breweries and distributing it to the bars, restaurants, case stores.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Who is? I don't know. I'm trying to put pieces together. Who is Eddie Freeland? Did he work for you guys? Or was that another distributor?
That name sounds very familiar. Eddie Freeland.
Because I heard that he was distributing Victory beer, but I know that you guys were selling Victory beer, right?
Gretz was. That name is familiar, but I can't place him. I would have put him in the wholesale distribution world.
He was another distributor, but I just don't. So I know a little bit about brewers. I know less about distributors, and it's like this whole it's not talked about in the same way that
No,
brewers are.
it's very much behind the scenes.
But it is kind of just as involved with breweries as breweries are. So
Yeah.
it's trying to like make that transparent, I guess. But
That's definitely a name I've heard, but I can't specifically place him. While Gretz was distributing Victory in the suburbs, like those 5 counties I mentioned,
yeah,
Penn Beer had Victory in Philadelphia and Chester County.
in the city. Maybe it was Eddie Freeland had it in the city, and then that
Right.
kind of like rolled up into Penn.
Could be, but that I also know like that was the like I know the family involved with Penn, and
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know. That's not the last name, or that's not the name I associate with Penn. But that doesn't mean
No, I think he worked for somebody else, and then
okay.
I don't know. Just as again, me just speculating. Well, I remember Tom Peters when he was here. He was talking about that.
So was John the other day.
Yeah,
A lot of the older like foundational like guys all knew Eddie.
Huh. Yeah. That name rings familiar, but I can't really place where I know him.
Got it.
But no, I don't believe he worked at Gretz. He could have worked at Penn. I'm not sure. But on the Victory connection, Penn
Yeah.
was carrying Victory in the city and in Chester.
cool. So you were working there. You were working the sign shop.
Yeah, I was working in there like summer and winter breaks when I was a kid, and before high school, and then college. Just sort of keeping busy. I had worked in like the sign shop, a beer truck, doing deliveries. I worked on neon sign repair, which was probably my favorite thing that I got to do there.
How was that?
That was really cool. That was so much fun. It was like a 1-person show, so I was like, it was my own gig, and it would be like just this room full of broken neons, but like a neon might compose of 3 or 4 parts. It'd be like Budweiser on tap, and like Bud and Weiser is always 2 or 3 sections of neon. So you would have like one neon sign where the Bud was broken, and another one that had the Bud. So you'd grab that Bud, throw it on that one, and maybe one didn't have the on tap, and so you put like on draft and make it over there, and then you like made a new Frankenstein sign.
Yeah.
So it was like this kind of thing of grabbing all of these shared pieces, or that were all compatible with each other, and putting them together, or just replacing the transformers. So that was a lot of fun, and it was in a time where there was not really anyone doing it, and there was this huge backlog of broken neons, which new were extremely expensive, and so it was like this great output of just putting together old parts.
Do you have any of them?
No, I didn't. I was always so tempted to take one, but I was like a younger guy, and I was like, I got in trouble. My dad's gonna yell at me or whatever. I really wish I took one, but it was so wild. Seeing some of the ones that would come in would be like, yeah, there was a bar fight, and it would just be like completely destroyed. Like, what happened to this thing? I just imagine like someone like threw someone into that sign or something, like just
Like something out of the movie.
Exactly. Some real wrecks of signs came in. So I was really fortunate and loved being able to work there during those breaks and make a little bit of walking around money when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And just get exposed to the industry and like get to see, that side of beer, connect with the sales reps, attend tastings. And it was really, they would do a lot of cool things. Like they brought in Randy Mosier, and we did like a real thorough guiding tasting at the distributor, and a lot of stuff like that. I now look back on, I know who Randy is, but then I was like, okay, some guy from Chicago teaching us about like all flavors. So like there was always this background, cool exposure to the industry that I was super grateful for. And
I imagine your family, because you guys have been brewing so long, like kind of Von C was the same way. Like it's not just that like other, like there's bar owners that have been passed down for generation upon generation. So like there's people that you guys have been either brewing beer for, or that, and then subsequently delivering beer to, and then now maybe brewing beer for again.
Sure.
Like kind of generationally, kind of like just putting the same beer into these people's school.
The most noteworthy example of that I encountered recently was Lou Beverage in Downingtown.
Yeah.
They're a distributor.
Yeah.
And they bought some of our cans, and then they showed me they had an old point of sale sign from the 1950s that had Gretz beer on it, on how much they were selling a case for. And he showed me a picture of.
Was it like $5.99 or something?
It was a case for $4.20.
Jeez.
Yeah. So it was cool. I kind of posted that up on my story. Yeah, it was neat. Because that was the first time I'd seen some pricing with the beer. Like, okay, case of 12-ounce cans. I assume it was cans. It just said 12 ounce. I guess it was cans. For $4.20. So it's kind of just neat to see that like perspective, and more so have our beer in that same place. It's pretty wild that they've been around, and they're kind of a cool, like small little building there. Definitely believable that they've been around for the last 70 years or so.
I mean, even the beer distributors like Kunda Beverage is 170 years old. They started, 20, 30 years after your family, and like they're still kicking. So it's cool that a lot of these businesses get passed down, and then kind of like you see like kind of history of things like kind of moving through.
It is cool. It's cool. Like I feel like it's very much a beer industry or like beverage industry thing. Other industries have it, but like,
I think part of brewing is not just the liquid itself, but kind of the story it tells.
Yeah.
And one, again, I love the fact that it's called Gretz Brewing, but like there's a story behind the beer. It's not just the liquid itself. And I think it's like it adds to the experience of drinking it.
Yeah, and I think that's been one thing I believe that's connected a lot of consumers to craft beer originally, and even historically, that there's a story behind it. There's something to believe in beyond the liquid, and that definitely continues to this day. Craft beer has evolved, and it's now become more commonplace, and people just like it for many other reasons. But it is cool to still have that connection of a story and geographical connection as well. Like this was brewed in Philly. We're still in Philly. The family hasn't gone anywhere, and we've maintained active in this industry the whole time. So it's kind of cool, full circle, to have it back. And I hope that consumers can kind of connect with that or see it. And I think there's also a lot of connection, a lot of pride in Philly's historical presence, just in a lot of people in the city. Like there's a lot of Philly pride, and this, I hope, can
pride for people from Philadelphia.
Exactly.
We love a hometown hero.
We love a hometown hero. We love our sports. We love our brands. We love our history. And so I hope that this can sort of loosely fall into place with that as well.
So going off that, we've talked a lot about your family. Let's talk about you. So you worked at the beer distributor,
Yeah.
the sign shop. What was your step into brewing like?
I wanted to, after college, so I worked at the distributor throughout my younger years.
Yeah.
After college, I had actually planned on working at the distributor, and I was imagining sales or something. And the policy at the time was this younger generation, the kids or whatever, they can work at the brewery. They can work at the distributor all they want, but once they graduate college, you need to, and if you do want to work at that distributor still, you need to go and work somewhere else, get your own career going, and then apply to the distributor. So with that in mind, I wanted to work at the distributor. So I figured that a good place to go get some experience would be at another brewery to get
Kind of the other side of it. Like if you're going to go jump back into it, then you can kind of see where you have to sell these.
Yeah, so if I'm going to get into sales, it could behoove me to know more about the brewing
For
side
sure.
of things and give me an edge on that. So I started working at Victory Brewing in Downingtown in 2011 on the bottling line. And that was my, like, at the time, the belief of like, well, I'll work here, get my experience here, and then apply to the distributor. And pretty shortly after working at Victory, I realized that I didn't really want to do a desk job or work at the distributor, and that it was dovetailed a lot more with my interests to, in fact, work at a production brewery. And so I kind of just stayed there, or at least stayed within that industry, and decided not to go into the distribution side of things. So that was in 2011, working at Victory. And I shortly after kind of gave up any ideas of trying to work at the distributor and just sort of stayed into the brewing world of things. After Victory, I got very into home brewing and hop growing. And then I went to brewing school in Chicago at the
Hop
Siebel
growing.
Institute.
So I want to hear about Siebel. Siebel 1 just is moving to Canada.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of crazy. But also, before we get into Siebel, hop growing, like how were your? I want to. I don't want to say it the offensive. Like how bad were your hops? I mean, you were growing at home. Were they good? Were they?
Mixed. So I was growing them. It was on a farm,
Okay.
in Elverson, and it was at my father's farm. And I was growing. Kind of got pretty into, or like at the peak, I was growing 50. I had 50 plants, and maybe like 7 or 8 varieties.
What were they?
How much does that yield? Like,
Well, what it yielded versus what it should have yielded were two different things. So I was growing a lot of C hops. I was growing Centennial, Cascade, and Chinook.
Yeah.
Mount Hood. No, excuse me, not Mount Hood. Willamette. And then I grew Sterling, Hallertau Middle Fruit, and I think Saaz. Saaz never came out of the ground. Hallertau grew, but it was so fickle. Like it produced cones, but they were just like so sensitive and didn't really produce anything. It was all about Chinook. Chinook was like just a monster. It produced beautiful cones.
That's what I hear a lot of people in this region. Chinook is kind of what they lean
It
on.
was very robust. Centennial was very weak. It like they never grew up more than half the height of the trellis. The cones turned kind of brittle and brown. Cascade was fine. Willamette was good. But each year they got worse. They just succumbed more to like downy and powdery mildews.
It's like such a crazy climate here. It's so hot. It's so cold. It's so wet. It's so dry. It's just it's tough to.
Yeah, and I wasn't very professionally. I was drawing them as well as I could. It was a pretty old school method of drawing them, of like in the rafters of an old barn with some box fans blowing on them. I never got down to like really the desired moisture content, but I got them dried enough. A lot of them just went into like fresh hop beers that I was home brewing. And at the end, it was a series of storms that just kept taking out our trellises, and I gave up. It was 2 in the same year, and it just broke me. I was like, okay. All of the diseases were one thing, and it just kept getting worse. And then when our trellises got knocked down twice in the same summer, I was like, all right.
this is the time.
I don't mean the returns were not worth it. It was a passion project. It was cool to grow hops and like
It's cool to understand
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they just
You're seeing
every
like
year
all
they
sizes. You're seeing like you're growing the raw materials. You've seen distribution. Now you've seen like production brewing. It's like you have this wide knowledge of kind of like many facets of the industry. How was so then going off that? How was Siebel?
outstanding. It was really great.
And you went there in person?
Yes,
Siebel is in person.
Yeah, I went to Chicago.
Cool.
Stayed there for their advanced brewing degree. This was in 2015. And that was awesome. I met some really cool people out there. Some I still stay loosely in touch with. A lot of going on to do spectacular things in the industry. It's been a really great network just of people to like be connected to. I've kind of tapped into that as a resource, like when I've kind of brought on new brewers later on in my career, and have connected with them just gradually here and there, like at Craft Brewers Conference or other beer events when I see some of the instructors and such. But Siebel was awesome. It was, I was very grateful that I had a little bit of brewing experience because it tended to be very theoretical in its education. It was very bookish, and not very hands-on, based on like much hands-on experience.
I say the same thing. I was brewing before I went to brewing school, and I think I would have been completely lost if I had just gone right into brewing school. It's like there's so many things that I just don't understand until you actually see it, and you're like, all right, the science behind this makes sense. Like it's not just memorizing chemistry.
Yeah, it's great to connect to some experiences, and I would love to see what it'd be like to go back to school now after much more brewing experiences. I think it would be all the more worthwhile. So it was very eye-opening for me, and I think it definitely set me on a path to take professional brewing a little bit more serious. So I left after Siebel. I worked at Stickman Brewing.
In where, Royersford?
In Royersford. This was in 2016, which was they had pretty recently opened.
Did you ever cross paths with Brendan Breslin there? I think Brendan was there.
He was right after you. He was like doing pizza there.
Okay.
But he was there when they shut down. Like,
all right.
later
That was
on.
a few years ago, I guess. I think. No, I was there in 2016.
cool.
And then from there, I went to Vault Brewing. I started at their brew pub. It's like a 10-barrel system. Both were 10-barrel systems at Stickman, and then at Vault. And that was as they were building out their production brewery. So I sort of was involved in that transition of brewing from brew pub to production.
That's cool. Were you there for like the build out?
Sort of. Like when I started there, the equipment was, I had missed most of it. The equipment was there. The trenches were dug out for the drains, but like it wasn't connected yet.
Yeah.
So like roughly, but I'd say the bulk of it was already done by the time that I got there.
Cool. And then how long were you at Vault for? You were there for a while, right?
Yeah, I was at Vault for 7 years. I left it at the end of 2023 to focus on this brewery. But
And you were the head brewer there?
yeah, I was head brewer there. And we completely moved to production brewing. We didn't continue to brew at that brew pub anymore. We still filled like some tanks, some brights behind the bar there, but all brewing was at the production brewery, and kind of went through a lot of changes there. It was interesting. We were all whole flower hops at the time when I started there.
At Vault?
Yeah, at Vault.
I don't picture Vault as like a whole flower hop.
Yeah, we were all whole flower hops, and
What is that? What does whole flower mean?
Like whole flower is like what he was making on the farm. And then like when you pelletize it, you turn into these like little rabbit turtle looking things.
Yep.
Just like get some more vegetable matter out, and that's what like most people use today is just pelletized hops.
yeah, by far most breweries are using pellets. When we got into hazy IPA brewing, that's when we shifted from whole flower to pellets because we just couldn't get like an active dry hop going the way we did on whole flower hops.
You have like 50% efficiency.
It was wild. I mean, we were using like the hop cannons, where we'd fill up a separate vessel with whole flower hops and pump beer out of a tank through that and returning it to the tank.
Yeah.
And that was really cool and unique and a labor of love. But I mean, it probably took one person 8 hours to dry hop a beer. which is wild knowing what we know as modern or pellet brewers. That would take about 8 minutes, probably too long.
Yeah,
like I mean, it was wild.
It's more time like sanitizing everything, getting the lift up there, your ladder set up.
Yep. Yeah, instead of CIPing and purging and filling a whole hop cannon, which was cool and a great experience, but yeah, it was kind of neat. Both of my couple first brews I worked at, Victory and Vault, were all whole flower hops. So
yeah,
I like that whole flower hop experience, but I've decided not to pursue it going forward.
So you left in 2023 to do Gretz. When you decided to do this, I know that your family had like sold Gretz. Did you have to like get the Gretz name back, or like how did that process work? It's just been so long that it was just kind of available.
Yeah, more or less. We sold the distributor was sold in 2018.
Yeah.
And with that, we maintained the rights to Gretz as a family to have Gretz in use in the marketplace
for Gretz beer. But like, what happened? Oh, I guess when you back in like the 60s, you guys still had like the Gretz name. It wasn't like that.
No. I don't know specifically what happened to the Gretz name in the 60s. Esslinger, who bought the brewery and its brands, had the Gretz name, and either, like I mentioned, Esslinger either sold the brand to Jacob Ruppert Brewing, or perhaps sold all of Esslinger and its other brands to Jacob Ruppert. So, but wherever that Gretz name transitioned to in the 1960s, it didn't continue having any use on any legal.
So you guys were fine.
The trademark just got abandoned. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
At what point did the wheels start turning for bringing Gretz back? Was that always maybe a plan?
I would say toward like the end of my time at Victory, and say 2012, I started to take my own career in brewing more serious, and that's when I like kind of tried to see like, well, where would I want this to take me, or what would my ultimate goals be? So in 2012 is about when I started, like that seed was planted, and that's when I decided to get some brewing education, keep working in the industry, tailor my own side experiences, like with hops, I guess, to kind of familiarize myself or around myself in the industry.
Yeah.
But the idea was to, after those experiences, to bring this brand.
How has that idea changed? I mean, what you're doing now is almost like a retro throwback, which is very popular now. But was this kind of always the idea to do something like this, or was it always kind of like changing?
The idea was always to be pretty retro throwback,
cool.
Or referential to the old brand. I guess I had gotten further away. If anything, my original ideas were much more literal to the old brands. Like Gretz had some specific brands like Bond Hill and Exeter and Diamond State, like a number of specific brands. And I was originally thinking like, well, I'll reintroduce Essex Ale or whatever, but it'll be a modern beer. Or like they had a porter, and I'll just do a porter.
A modern take on what they were doing back then.
Exactly. And I've kind of moved away from that. Like I still have some interest in that, but I decided to just use a lot more of the old branding, but to create new brands from within it.
Mm-hmm. So these beers are not the same recipe, because I know the Von C OG Pills is the same recipe.
Yeah.
This is a new beer that you came up with.
This is both of these are new brands. Yes.
Cool.
Both by the recipe and by the brand itself. Like Gretz made a Pilsner, which I've seen on paper that they did, but I've never seen a label for it. So I don't know if it was ever like Gretz Pilsner. And same, I don't think they ever made a lager. I mean, they made lager beers, but I don't think they ever had a beer just called lager. And if they did, I'm very sure it was not like a Helles style, which this is. So I kind of decided to create a couple new brands that were referential to the old marketing, but new brands, which in a way, these are new brands that are sort of vague. Like it's Gretz Pilsner, which happens to be a North German style, or Gretz Lager happens to be a Helles, but that kind of connects to the old brands where they were just sort of vague. So like, this is vague, but on the side it says specifically a North German. Or
it's cool, and it's spot on, man. The color of this Helles is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. I like I did want to brew modern beers. Like I have some old recipes, and I think those will make the scene one day. But I'm not. I don't take a lot of inspiration from them or a lot of interest in them. I think it would be cool to do, but I wanted to brew something new.
That was yours.
Yeah, that was mine. Yet still traditional. Like this is by the books, like a pretty traditional Helles lager, but I didn't want to go totally throwback on the beer, on the liquid itself.
What was the build out process like? I mean, are you brewing at that same farm that you were growing hops at? Because it is a farm brewery, right?
Yeah, we're on a farm. It's a different farm. Both are in Elverson. So we had originally started to envision this brewery in Philly and then in the suburbs, and then we ultimately landed on a farm because we were just experiencing a lot of like commercial real estate restrictions on finding the right space.
Yeah.
And at that point, it made sense to move this onto this is a family-owned farm that has really nice water for brewing, a lot of space to grow.
And also, I don't know if you've been to Warwick Farms. Like they're crushing it right now, and they have all that space outside, and it's kind of like it's different. A lot of breweries now are just like open up in the city.
Yeah.
Here's a little tap room, like doing a little bit differently, and you have like kind of all the space to grow.
Sure. And I could see in the future, and even maybe it's happening a little bit now, like leaving the city, having a destination brewery that is out of the city, has a bit more space. It's a different scenery. We're in a very rural setting, so I could see that being a draw for some consumers in the future, if and when we get a tap room on site there.
Definitely.
So that was definitely
event space too.
Yeah, and it would be a beautiful space for a beer garden. So that was definitely a heavy consideration of like, well, in the future we could get a pretty nice tap room beer garden space here on the farm. So we started working on the building. There is an existing building on the farm. We started working on it in 2023. We did the whole facility build out ourselves. We installed a new floor.
The tile?
Yep, new tile floor.
The tile is beautiful. It looks like some old traditional German brew house.
Totally, yeah. And it's a bit of a connection too, beyond all of its functional benefits. The old Gretz Brewery has a brick smokestack that says Gretz beer.
Yeah.
And the tile is quarry brick, so like there is a brick connection.
That's awesome.
To that smokestack as well. So I like to sort of think of that as like a physical reference there. So we did the floor ourselves, put in windows into the building, new walls, whole kind of facility upgrade to make it brewery ready. And that took a good year, I'd say, of getting that building ready. We brought in equipment about a year ago.
And what's the equipment? Was it new equipment?
Yeah, new equipment.
From Germany?
New equipment from Germany, from Kaspar Schultz. So it's a 20 hectoliter brewery, or 17 U.S. brewing barrels.
Yeah.
And it's it's a beautiful facility, and it definitely took a while of getting it all kind of piped in and ready, and getting that facility ready to brew on. But it was also a real pleasure of having gotten the opportunity to work at various breweries and have an education to then inform how we wanted this brewery to look.
I mean, I've not been there, but your pictures online, it's like you have the most beautiful brew house that's been built in Philly in the last 5-10 years. It's between the brew house itself and then just like the space that you're brewing in and this whole cellar setup. It's kind of awesome looking. I mean, most places, you have all this space to grow into also.
It's a lot of space to grow in there. It's very roomy, and hopefully if things go well, there will be more tanks going in there. There's definitely room to grow in there. It's a beautiful facility to brew at. It's got great water. It's got great local farmers for spent grain removal. But it was definitely a lot of work, and we were rather stubborn on doing a lot of the build out ourselves. We fortunately had some experience in construction to do that, but we didn't work with many consultants on the build out, and encountered a lot of headaches and sort of learning experiences as we made that happen. But so that took a couple years. We perhaps even started to begin on the building in 2022. And we did our first brew in April this year.
Cool.
So it took probably, was coupled with some headaches. It took about 6 months to get the equipment piped in and commissioned and ready to brew on.
It's hard piped, the piping and everything.
Everything is hard piped. Yeah.
Nice. It's very cool.
Yeah, totally.
So you guys just have the 2 beers out now.
Right.
How many tanks do you guys have? Like, how often are you guys brewing?
So we've got 3 conical fermenters, 1 open fermenter, and then 5 horizontal lagering.
What are you doing with the open fermenter? Are you doing anything yet?
I haven't brewed in it yet. I'm waiting until construction is like totally finished at the facility, which it mostly is, but like we're still doing some like hardscaping outside and such.
You don't want like construction dust.
I don't want exactly no construction. I mean, it has a lid, but nothing to trifle with. So I envision some Weiss beer brewing with the open fermenter.
I've been seeing, so we just had John Schrodner on, and I've been seeing what he's doing with the open top fermenter. And it's just, wow, like,
yeah, I guess
there's not too many people doing that.
No, and I feel like their new Pennsylvania lager might be coming through that open top.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And that, I mean, I don't know if I imagine they maybe have gotten more, but just seeing that one on the brewery tour there with like all the tiles surrounding it is just stunning. So I envision some wheat beer brewing with it, but I would love to pass like any higher ABV beers through it, or maybe even some more hop forward beers. Like if we do like a hoppy lager or West Coast Pils, be able to like skim off some hop oils off the top. But we haven't passed anything to the open fermenter yet. But we are just focusing on these 2 brands. A wheat beer is in the work. I would love to brew a wheat beer, maybe in the summer.
Yeah,
see that as a summer.
It's a tough
offering.
thing to just like open up with like, we got a wheat beer.
I know, right? Yeah. I also want to hone in on some of the packaging things. Like, sure, I'm familiar with cans on a smaller scale with bottles, but I would love that wheat beer to be in a bottle, like a 500 ml bottle.
Definitely.
Wheat beer would just be all bottle conditioned. Would just be, who knows, like what I got. Like that's what got me into drinking was like a Hefeweizen when I was like out of college. Like
Especially with your branding, that would look really nice.
Yeah, totally. So for now, we're focusing on the Pils on the lager. But I would like to get into some seasonals either this summer with the wheat or at the very latest, probably an Oktoberfest. I do believe though this spring we're going to do like a Franconian, like amber lager, have that for Craft Brewers Conference. We might be doing a collaboration for that.
Cool.
So I definitely want to get into seasonals, and then when we open up a tap room, then it'll be much more appropriate to have like a full list of beers. I definitely want to keep it within like the European and hopefully specific German context of beer styles.
Yeah.
But I love hoppy beers, and I could totally see like a hoppy lager being part of the scene.
So
still a lager though, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Where do you see, or when do you see a tap room happening?
That is hard to say. I could say at the earliest, perhaps in 2026.
Okay.
Maybe something at the brewery.
Yeah.
Or something in a nearby town. We are on a farm, and so sometimes I get concerned about how viable it is to bring a lot of people out to the farm. Like it would be more of a destination setting. So maybe it would be more appropriate to have something that's in a bit more of like something with a bit more foot traffic or car traffic.
Yeah, once you establish yourself, then like you have all the space to build out eventually.
So I'd say at the earliest would be 2026.
Cool.
But right now it's sort of like a phase 1 was just getting the beer out there, getting it into the market, develop some consumer recognition, drum up a little bit of interest for when we get a tap room going.
So you are self-distributing now.
Yes.
So you're finally back to distributing.
Right?
Full circle.
I know. Yeah.
How are you liking that? Are you liking it?
I like it. It's challenging. It's definitely something new to me. Like while I've been working in this industry for a little while, I've not directly worked in sales before, and going into a new account with some samples and such is has gradually become more of my forte, but it wasn't at the beginning. But I ultimately do I find it kind of exciting. And I like that it's not lost on me that my name is on the package. And try to see that as a positive, or I know it's a positive, but I try to see it as a positive for when I go into a new account that that could perhaps set me apart from another beer brand of having the confidence.
How often do you get
my name on it?
People are all right, so what's the brewer doing here? What's this person doing?
Sure.
No, that's me. You see that?
That. So being genuine about this has been, I think, one of our strengths as well, because frequently I get asked, who's contract brewing the brand? Or that's an assumption. And it's no, we're brewing it ourselves. We're distributing, marketing. We're doing all of this ourselves. And we want to be as legitimate as we can about it. And so I hope that I try to make that translate to the buyers, ultimately to the consumers. But before I got to get someone to buy the beer first to carry it. So I hope that translates, and I sometimes take solace or comfort that maybe that'll be viewed when I go in to try to sell the beer that I'm another salesperson, but I have a little bit more skin in the game of standing behind the brand. And
you're talking to the man right here.
Sure. Yeah, I've got a stake in the success, and I want to work with them to make it successful.
Yeah.
And I think it's unique too that I don't know how much is recognized, but we don't have a tap room. So when I go to a place, I'm trying to partner with them as the carrier of my product. And, I will be sending people to this bar, to this case store to drink my beer. When people reach out, which they have been, of where do I find your beer? Well, you got to go to X, Y, and Z place. So I can see that as a bit of a positive as well, that I'm going to be promoting this establishment that I'm trying to sell my beer at as well. So there's small things like that I like to think that differentiate us a little bit, because it's definitely a crowded marketplace, and things are actively changing as far as the craft beer landscape, what people think of craft beer, both as beer buyers and consumers. And so navigating that shifting world can be a little tricky.
Definitely. I lost my train of thought.
What was the choice for the 12-ounce cans over regular cans? Because it's been coming back, certainly. I think in the last year or so, the 12 ounces have been quite more popular, at least from the brand's output standpoint. But curious.
I think it's been kind of twofold. Mainly, I think it definitely supports lager beer being in a 12-ounce can of... I'm trying to make these beers, especially the lager, an everyday drinking beer. And so a 12-ounce can, it's a smaller commitment to be on the edge. Do I want another one or not? It's just 12 ounces. The brew's going to stay colder when you get to the bottom of it, because you're not going through a full 16 or 19-ounce can. But so I definitely see it as appropriate for lager beer of just everyday drinking, crushing the beer, but also as a way to stand out. On one hand, stand out against 16-ounce cans, but I think that there's going to be a bit of a kind of the pendulum swinging back toward 12-ounce cans. And so I want to be on the forefront of that, if in fact that is happening, but also to stand out a little bit. And I like a six-pack. I think there's just something classic about a six-pack. It's a cool buy. I love.
It also goes with the history of I imagine your family was not making 16-ounce cans back in the day.
I don't think. No, they had Steiny's, which I think was 16 ounce, and they had half-gallon ones, bottles. So, but most of them.
When are you bringing those up?
Never know. I would love to get into bottling again. Not just like I mentioned on the wheat beer, but I think a 12-ounce bottle would
be sick.
Yeah, I mean,
so cool.
I saw Human Robot did that a few years ago, and I thought that really stood out in a cool way. They might have even been like green bottles or something.
They were green bottles.
All the cooler. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Human Robot, I'm sure you guys would be the same way. Like if you put that out, it sells out right away, so you don't have to worry about like light shrub bottles or anything. But
sure. I've been trying to pester we don't have a canning line yet. We were working with the mobile company, and I keep putting in their ear why don't you guys have a mobile bottling line, or like, where's the mobile bottling line? Like, what state has it? Or And unfortunately, I don't think there is one. I know there might be some like kind of rogue person nearby that does some mobile bottling, but I don't know. As brewers, we know like packaging is so dang important that you really want someone dialed in. And I was really impressed with the mobile canning company we used. I'd worked with them at Vault like before.
Was that Ironheart?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
We worked with them before getting our line in like right before COVID. And then this is my first time in like 5 or 6 years. And they had really dialed in their process. And I think they did a spectacular job. So, yeah, I don't know. I like the 12-ounce cans a lot. Yeah.
And you guys are in draft also, right? I saw you guys make that the post the other day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your cans are beautiful.
Thanks. yeah. We've got beer out on draft and in cans.
Nice. Where I'm at again, like, what do you think? Like your brand kind of like leans into? Is it more of a draft beer? Is it more of a canned beer? I mean, when I think of your beer, I think of it's like in cans.
Yeah.
But then also I see it as like kind of like I don't want to say the everyday lager because it makes it sound like it's like not quality, but like it's like a consistent quality beer that's like a local brand around here that could also just be like kind of like the everyday high quality draft at a bar. Like, well, where do you foresee like the future? Is it more in draft or more in cans?
I think the future, I would like it to be more on draft. Right now, particularly since we don't have a tap room, we really need, or it behooves us to really like have an identity with the consumer, and that's all the more supported by having a label on a can.
Free advertising.
Yeah, and it you know, consumers or drinkers are very visual in their habits, and without having a tap room to establish an identity with the product and get that visual identity, I think it's necessary that we have cans with labels and attractive labels. And so for now, as we're still getting the brand out there and redeveloping consumer recognition, the cans are very important for that. We still try to have other visual presence, like on Instagram and on limited merchandise that we have. But right now, the cans are pretty important. But going forward, I think once we get a tap room, I would still like to have a presence in the market outside of our own tap rooms, but I would like that to be shifted more towards kegs on a sustainable level, less packaging material out in the world. And I think it's also important, like, to have people out drinking still together, like at a bar. Like, obviously there's always a place to drink at home, literally a place, but like there's a place for it. Like, it's cool to drink at home, but like beer is social, alcohol is social, but especially beer. And I think it's important to be able to like have a pint with your friends and strangers at a bar. So I would like to keep a focus on draft beer with that connection in mind.
I agree with you. I think the bar scene, you know, many people view it as like this negative, unhealthy thing, but I think it's like socially, it is very healthy and it's kind of needed. And, you know, I think people kind of get back to the pub life or the tavern life.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good, healthy lifestyle. Cool. So what's the future of Gretz beers? I mean, you guys have just gotten started. So like, I mean, I'm asking you what the future is.
Yeah.
Damn.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're just about a month out, but the future initially is going to be continuing to push these two brands, get more consumer recognition, but then get into seasonal brands. At the very latest, like I mentioned, it'll be probably a fest beer, Oktoberfest style, but branching out into seasonals, and then it'll be tap room, getting a tap room going, brewing more of a variety of styles to have a tap list for people to enjoy. But that's kind of a goal at this point, or not a goal. It's gonna, you know, it's a reality that I see, you know, in our future, but a gradual transition to more brands. These, then seasonals, maybe a couple one-offs, and then a tap room with more of a variety of beers. And I would love to have ultimately even like a tap room in Philly. You know, naturally this is a resurrection of an old historic Philadelphia big brand. And so I think it would be important to have something in Philadelphia.
That'd be very, I know that they're developing the Gretz Brewing into like a 900 unit apartment building or something. That would be very cool if you guys like opened up like under a tap room underneath it there.
I know. That would be very cool. And I believe I hope they stick
have you
to
gone
it.
in there and be like, yo, give me a discount. I'm going to get a lot of business in here. You got a story to tell.
Right? Yeah, Tony Rufo, if you're listening. So we've met with the owner in the past as a family. It's been a while. From what I've understood, those plans still maintain the smokestack, which is very cool.
It's a historical building, right? So
Yeah.
they have to maintain like at least the external.
I'm not sure how much is required. About 5 or 10 years ago, the city required them to do a bunch of demo work on the facade because it was unsafe. But there was a more public facing, like something could crumble off onto the sidewalk. So I don't know if they're required to keep the smokestack or not. But I've seen it in the plans that the smokestack remains, and it's what you mentioned: commercial activity down on the bottom floor and condos above.
Yeah.
That would be awesome to have a tap room there. That, anything's possible. We've interacted with the owner of that property before, and that conversation,
I hope that happens. That's like 3 blocks from my house. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously like that's a pretty hot, in general, a pretty happening area. It's becoming more developed, and it's like almost this like, it's like a holdout there. It's like that is the only there's like the Crane Arts building. There's obviously some old buildings there, but like you're surrounded by a lot of modern development, and now there's like a citywide just old brewery that's been there the whole time and nothing's going on with it. So it's like it sticks out as like.
Is that a cool intersection too? It would make a statement, them putting something nice there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a very cool intersection. Germantown's, I guess, going at a diagonal there. And that smokestack is iconic. It's a real, I think, kind of a landmark.
100%. They need to keep that.
Yeah. I got real worried a few years ago. I saw a Philly Inquirer posted a picture of like a scissor or like a big boom lift up there, and they were like working on the smokestack. And I reached out to the photographer and I got in touch, and they're like, oh, they were just replacing a few bricks that fell. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, are they taking this thing down, or what kind of work is this? So I hope the thing is structurally sound. I imagine the architects or engineers, I guess, would have analyzed that on their decision to keep the smokestack, which I hope they do. That'd be very cool to have something there. And if not there, still in Philly would be, still cool to do. So I don't think the first tap room will be in Philadelphia, but totally open to it and would see that as I think just like an awesome place to go and kind of completely bring it full circle back to Kensington.
Cool. Well, you nailed your first 2 beers. Thank you for coming on. Mm-hmm. What can we do to like promote you? So like we find you on Instagram at Gretz Brewing.
Yep, we're on Instagram at Gretz Brewing. And that's where we tend to post, like as we get into new accounts, we'll try to post about that or beer events like tastings and such. So that's probably the most immediate place that you can find us.
You have great social media too. It's very clean. It's like very curated. It's nice.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, that's another thing that's definitely not my forte, but we were also working with a great designer that's helped out with these labels and like the social media vibe and aesthetic. So I would definitely say find us on social media, and then that kind of lists where our beer is at, and that's where you can kind of find us and see where we're up to.
Sweet. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited to kind of follow your journey. Keep drinking your beer. And then you can follow us at Brewdat, at the Brewdat Podcast. Again, subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify.
Yeah, 5 stars, please. Thank you.
5-star, please and thank you. And we'll see you guys next week.
Sweet.
Awesome. Thank you.